So how does psych degree help my job? Stats. I hated stats. I think it's called something else now. You were saying it's research methods. Stats. I couldn't stand it. It took me forever to get it. I'm kind of making myself out to sound not very bright. I actually am quite bright, but I didn't get economics, I didn't get stats. Stats actually is one of the most underlying disciplines of marketing that we use every single day. We market research, we use data in creating all of our campaigns. I meet with my research guy at least 4 times a week on whether it's just creating naming conventions for a product, whether it's testing ideas in market research. We don't have the qualitative side of things, but the quant side is really what's important because that's how we measure all of our campaigns. And when my boss comes to me and I have to understand the data, I have to understand the cost of acquisition of every single subscriber we bring on, I'm measured on it. We need to analyze and study the trends of our customer base, for example, the different changes in their products and services. So stats is absolutely critical. And as I said, I use it every day. The other thing with psychology is really the understanding of people. And I've got up there motivators, emotions, and things like that, because I need to understand what would make you purchase a cell phone versus what would make you purchase a cell phone. How do you use your cell phone? What do you use it for? What would motivate you to buy from Rogers versus Bell? The emotional benefits. I feel kind of cool when I've got the new torch. I don't know if any of you guys have seen it yet. It's really neat looking. Being in REM territory, I thought you might have actually seen one. Believe it or not, my mother got one on the weekend. We were in Chatham, because we have a cottage near Chatham. I have to tell you the story because I thought it was hysterical. So she wanted a torch. She's never had a BlackBerry, so she wants to go to the most extreme you can get. She's never used an iTouch. So there's a touch screen on it. There's a keyboard. So she got her touch. She was all excited. Then she got home, and she put it on the counter, and she scrolled it up, and she had the keyboard. And instead of typing with your thumbs, you guys all text, right? Right? You type with thumbs. She was typing like this on the keyboard. And I said, you know what, Mom? You can't walk and do that at the same time. It's kind of hard to key when you're doing like this. So we had to coach her on how to use her thumbs to text. But that would be a perfect example of how that probably wasn't the right product for her. She's learning. We'll see how long it lasts. My husband's in the back corner, and he's dying for one. He can't believe my mother had one before he did. But anyway, we're going to go try and find him one today. I figured we're in RIM territory. We might be able to find one. So it's important that we understand, how customers use products, why they use products, emotionally and functionally. And psychology helps with that for sure. I also think part of being on a team or managing a team, understanding people's, motivations, in their career, not only from a consumer perspective, but on your team perspective. Understanding team dynamics and behaviors within a team, managing people's day-to-day is important. Understanding their values and, what's important to them as far as their career. Do they have a family? Do they not have a family? Why is that important? Why is it not important to them? Those sorts of things in order to help manage and develop those people's career. Because a big part of my job is I'd like to see the people who work for me be my colleague. I think that's where you want to get them to. You want them to be your colleague once they've developed enough experience to be promoted, if that's their choice, if that's their career path. I've been lucky enough to have several people that I've worked for become my colleagues, and I think that's a great foundation for developing a cross-functional team from a collegial perspective. And then communicating. I think that psychology is understanding people, so hopefully you can understand how to communicate, and it's important you communicate differently to different people because everyone has different communication styles. As you can tell, I'm quite outgoing and I like to talk fast, and I'm a little bit hyper sometimes, but I need to change my style when I deal with different people, both within the organization and with my team. So it's important to understand your style versus the person you're dealing with style and adapt accordingly. I think psychology does help you with that. So some of the career opportunities, this is what I see where psychology can be applied that I think is really effective. First of all, market research, that whole stat side of thing. Market research is a fabulous, interesting area. I was lucky enough to have marketing research on my team for a short period of time in one of my roles at Rogers. But it's a fascinating and it's an underpinning area that's really important in our campaign creation and our campaign measurement, as I said earlier, and a great application for someone who has a psych background. The second would be marketing communications. This is kind of the more creative side of marketing. This is really understanding needs and behaviors and the emotional benefit of the advertising we create. These are the people that deal with the ad agencies. So they're the ones who create the commercials, making sure that we're delivering what we want from an emotional benefit perspective, from a functional benefit perspective. So it's kind of the more creative side of marketing. And I've done that a little bit in my career, but I'm probably more of a pragmatic marketing person. I'm more the planning side of things, which is market planning. So this is really creating the marketing plans for, let's say, a quarter or a year. It's sitting down and understanding what are my targets, what campaigns do I need to develop to achieve those targets, how do they all build up to ladder up to the overall success of the business, you know, who am I targeting, why am I targeting that audience, how do I grow market share? So that's kind of the market planning side of marketing. I think psych has a good there as well, because you need to understand your target marketing activities very well. Who are your audiences? So that's really important. Channel marketing. This is the marketing within a sales channel. It's a lot of retail marketing, which is fun. So understanding the retail environment. So when someone walks into a Rogers Plus store, where do they look? You know, what draws their eye? How do they walk through a store? It's more of the behavioral, physical side of marketing. It's really interesting. There's some fabulous studies done on retail design and in actually creating a store footprint. Where do you place things? How do you make sure people can touch things and handle things? So it's a really interesting side of marketing. Service and operations. This is a lot of the people management side of what you can do with your career. That's where I started at American Express. So managing teams in a call center, managing a customer service team. Incredibly critical role within an organization. They're the front line to your customers. They're the face of your business. And having people that are well-trained, well-managed, and represent your brand well, it's a really critical role within the organization. I sometimes think it gets undervalued, but having come from that background, I understand how important it is in order to make sure that your organization is successful. And sales. For those of you who like to be more of a people person, get out there, share your stories if you're a bit of a storyteller. Sales is a great area. I've dabbled in sales a little bit in my career, and it's lots of fun for sure. It's a lot of hard work, and you have to be very disciplined, because typically when you're in sales, you're on your own. It's kind of, you know, your targets, you know, your goals you have to meet on a quarterly or monthly basis, and you have to have the personality type for that type of role. And that's, I believe, well, everything. I know I went fast, but I wanted to leave a little bit of time for questions. I'm probably like, sorry.
Okay, now we have everybody set up outside for informal questions, but we have time for
I left some time for a few questions.
Wants to share their question with the group.
Yeah.
You have to do it all over again.
Yeah.
What would you take at school that you didn't take?
I would have taken communications.
Verbal and written, or?
Well, there's a communications program, but I think that would have been an area that would have helped.
Along with your psychology, or
Both, yeah. You know, I wouldn't have substituted the psych. Yeah, for sure. It would have been supplemental. Yes.
You talked about social opportunities at Laurier.
Yeah.
Would that include volunteering? Did you do any volunteering?
Yeah, community volunteering, absolutely. I actually volunteered as a part of the psych program. Actually, there's a volunteer component. I volunteered at a daycare in the Waterloo married residences, and volunteered there. Actually, I really enjoyed it. I actually even continued on there as a volunteer after my, you know, required time had stopped. I love the kids. You kind of get attached to them after a while. And I did a lot of child psychology courses, so I thought that was a great opportunity for me to kind of really live in the environment of what I was learning. Yeah.
When you were fresh out of university with your psychology degree, applying for the market research positions and marketing campaign positions, did you find that you had to really convince potential employers to consider you over people with marketing degrees, or were they more?
It was tough. Absolutely. I think you need to know how to sell a psychology degree.
How would you do that?
How would I do that? Well, kind of how I talked about it here a little bit. It's really understanding, you know, marketing. It's understanding the consumer. You know, in business marketing, it's more about packaging, pricing, product, and promotion. 4 Ps, which is all great, and that's the discipline of marketing. But actually understanding the consumer and the psyche of the consumer, you know, the motivations, and you know why it's important to deliver certain messages and brand to kind of appeal to somebody. I think that's kind of how I kind of sold it. I started in operations, but you know, having that background to help sell when I interviewed for a marketing job was really how I positioned it.
And one more thing.
Yeah.
Do you think you could have gotten where you are today without doing that business diploma afterwards? Or?
Yes, absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I know a lot of people said to me, well, why didn't you do an MBA? And I'm like, after you stopped, I was like, well, I didn't think I needed to. And I'm not trying to put down MBA, but a lot of people come in with MBAs and they start at the exact same level as somebody who's got a BA. So it depends on the job, and I think it's it's up to you, because some people want to supplement their education that way. But no, I don't think I would have needed to do it. To be honest with you, I just didn't know what I wanted to do. All my friends were still here. They were doing 4-year degrees. I wasn't quite ready to get into the working world. So I thought, great, it's a year. You can probably add value to what I already know, but it wasn't something that I necessarily felt I had to do.
When you're hiring people, what are you looking for now?
Right out of school?
Yeah.
A couple of different things. Obviously their academic background. Where did they go to school? I'm not going to hire somebody into marketing, who's done an engineering degree necessarily, but or a legal degree. Although we do use our legal. I work with our legal department a lot because we make a lot of claims in the marketplace. And I don't know if you've seen all the lawsuits between Bell and Rogers and TELUS and all the rest of it. Well, I'm a part of all those, unfortunately. I've learned far more about the legal litigation system and our engineering, our network engineering, than I ever thought I would know or want to know. But it's been an interesting, as I said, keep on learning, but an interesting process. But sitting in courtrooms in Fredericton for 2 or 3 days is not a lot of fun. So I look for really, what experience they had in the summers. So have they done something in the summer that can, give them a little bit of experience when they come to the table? Have they managed a team? Maybe they were a camp counselor. Have they worked in an office? You kind of get a sense of, what people can maybe do and add value to your team to supplement, what you already have on the team. I also look at, in what their career development aspirations are. So outside of the resume and in the interview process. And then a lot of it's really about fit. I never hire someone right from a piece of paper. I always like to interview them. I always like to have a colleague interview them as well, because I think fit's a really important thing. I think a lot of people bring academically pretty much the same thing to the table after a university degree, whether it's in sociology or psychology or political science or whatever it happens to be. But a lot of it's fit, and a lot of it also is making sure that, on your resume, you've demonstrated that you've done something other than just get a degree, right? So it is sometimes the volunteer opportunities. It is, getting some experience in the summers and working in various areas, but I think that's really important. Yeah.
Should we be emphasizing group work more in our program?
Yes, absolutely.
Because you highlighted that. I mean, our capstone is a standalone honors thesis. Mm-hmm. And I don't know if you did an honors thesis when you were here, but that's what we're directing our students to. But what I'm hearing from you is much more a group process, projects together in class rather than...
I don't think I've ever actually done, I shouldn't say that, I've rarely done an individual creation, if you want to call it that. An individual campaign that was created only by me, where nobody else was involved. There was no collaboration, there was no consumer insight, there was no sales insight. It's very collaborative. Every single job I've had is very collaborative and very cross-functional in nature. You work with a lot of different groups. As I said, legal, engineering, sales. So having experience, being able to collaborate, get the listening skills, get able to contribute, understand what you can add to the table. I think one of the things that's really important is when we work collaboratively is that I know I'm good at something and I'm not very good at something else. So let that person do what they're good at and I'll do what I'm good at. And then, ultimately, if we all bring our strengths to the table and are willing to give, maybe I wanted to do that, but I know I'm not quite as good as it, then you end up with collectively a better result at the end of the day. So yeah, it's important, for sure. Yeah.
I just sort of wanted to supplement what you were saying in regards to Dr. Eichelman's question, because I went through the psychology program at Laurier, and the only real experience that I had in a group setting was when I took business courses. Yep. And it was really challenging at first because I hadn't worked in a group since high school, and I very much disliked working in a group in high school, which a lot of people do. But I found it just really incredibly interesting, and I learned so much. And yeah, so I really think that it'd be beneficial to have more group work and group projects in a psychology program for sure. Yeah, because I'm not sure what the stats are, but I believe most of the people who graduate psychology don't end up in psychology careers. Probably not. No, so having that, agreed, that collaborative opportunity, I think would be extremely helpful from an experience perspective.
Okay, well maybe it's time to
move
outside. Before
Sure.
That.
Oh, thank you.
Thank you very much. It's not Blackberry film.
Well, you never know the next version. The next iteration may be that size.
Thank you very much.
Thank you for coming on Friday. Thank you. Thank you very much. Appreciate it.